What is up YouTube, and welcome to this DCEU video. So we will be discussing just what Zack Snyder has confirmed about his Snyder Cut and the wider impact of it on the DCEU in an interview with Grace Randolph. Now just before we dive into the video, please do consider subscribing if you enjoyed the video and drop a like as well, as that does help us out massively, and do consider watching until the end as well. Now, one of the most interesting aspects of the DCEU, in my opinion, is how it's supposed to connect with the rest of the whole wider EU, much like Aquaman and Shazam, but movies like Joker and Matt Reeves' upcoming Batman trilogy are not connected to the Justice League or the rest of the offshoots. Also, one of the big landmark moments of the wider DC live action world was the earth-shattering moment when Ezra Miller's Flash showed up during the Crisis on Infinite Earths. This even featured the Green Lantern planet Oa from the much-hated Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie. And that actually connects everything into a wider multiverse. To be honest, I quite enjoyed the Green Lantern movie, you know. It was just what it is. During an interview with Beyond the Trailer, Zack Snyder said how his Justice League will largely follow its story and be largely different from the theatrical version. Considering the plot leaks and a huge leak of the final scene, this absolutely makes sense. He said, "I believe that it really starts to represent its own path. It's kind of separate now from what I'd say the DC cinematic universe is in continuity. It's divergent in that way, and I think that's a good thing. The power of DC and one of its core strengths is its multiverse concept, and where they put filmmakers first and go, we want to hear your individual stories, take these characters and do a run and show us what you would do with a run in the sense of traditional comic book writing." So I think that is a cool and amazing canvas. For me, I think Justice League, you know, I've heard someone say, oh, so you're entering the SnyderVerse now. So his words make sense, as the SnyderVerse is really Man of Steel, then Batman vs Superman, and obviously Justice League, or at least the Snyder Cut version of the Justice League, because it is so different to what we got in the cinemas those many years ago. Mainly the fact that Darkseid actually shows up, especially at the end as well, if we are to believe the leaks. It would certainly be its own thing, as the films that came after, like Aquaman and Shazam, would have followed the theatrical story, while the original cut, butchered by Joss Whedon, is so very different. Now, I used to love Joss Whedon. I grew up watching Buffy as it was on TV and Firefly, Serenity, and I was very excited when he took over the mantle of becoming the director for the first Avengers movie. But that movie absolutely lacked any sort of substance and was just superheroes fighting for ages. And Age of Ultron, I remember walking out at 3 AM of the cinema thinking, wow, that was an absolute waste of my time. So I'm glad that Zack Snyder is here, taking over and having his vision. If you like it or not, you can't deny that he has a fantastic vision. Obviously, looking at Watchmen, the adaptation of that was near perfect. And in this interview, he also mentions what many of us have been trying to hammer home to people who hate Zack Snyder and the Justice League. The Superman, his rebirth here is when we get the optimistic version of Superman. And that's what you're going to see here. In this Snyderverse, we're now going to have a very optimistic and sort of comic book accurate Christopher Reeve style Superman, if you will, the one which we know and love. And you've got to have characterization. You can't just have him simply be a good guy and that's that. That isn't interesting whatsoever. But this means that the Snyder Cut will continue on its own trajectory, and, well, it's going to have, if rumours are to be believed, a HBO Max continuation of the Snyder Cut. The rumour is that we're going to have a Snyderverse on the HBO Max, while we see the Elseworld style stories, like he mentioned, these self-contained worlds, actually play out on the big screen. So we're going to have the Matt Reeves movie, which he said he absolutely cannot wait for because he thinks Matt Reeves is a great director, which, yes, he absolutely is. We're going to have possibly a Joker 2. I don't really want that. We're going to have Aquaman 2 as well, and we're going to have the rest of it. The key here is that Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW could be the setup to the full DCEU Multiverse, and may even be the plot of the upcoming Flash movie as he realises the world has gone wrong, and maybe he will try and fix it Flashpoint style. Maybe they're going to play fast and loose with that. But further cementing the idea that the Justice League will not rewrite the DCEU, obviously we have many different timelines now, Snyder said, frankly, the DC cinematic universe has branched like a tree and blossomed and grown in amazing and great ways. But for me, where Justice League falls, I believe it really sort of represents its own path. It's kind of separate now from the DC cinematic universe continuity, and I think that's a good thing. He's basically saying here that, well, the Snyder Cut Justice League doesn't exist in the larger DCEU as he was doing his own thing, and his own thing was sadly absolutely butchered. So basically we have sort of three timelines. We have the SnyderVerse, the prime DCEU timeline which continued with Aquaman and Shazam, and finally the standalone movies like Joker and Matt Reeves' Batman, which are, like I said, are sort of Elseworlds. Many thought Joker to be Elseworlds, which this all but confirms, but hopefully they don't try and butcher what was an amazing story by trying to bring it into everything else. So I do like that idea that we've got three timelines within the DCEU. It's just crazy to think, and I'm a bit gutted that things like Shazam and Aquaman won't necessarily pay in fully to what we originally had. The weekend is also Comic-Con at home, as well as Justice Con, so Zack has also hinted we will get a new clip after the clip from just a few weeks ago, and he says that I may show a clip, and it is a small clip, it may be a small clip, and also there's going to be another tiny little announcement, just a little thing for the fans. The clip is, that's going to be fun, so I think we'll probably see a bit more of the Snyderverse than we've had, or Snyder Cut that we've seen so far. It's really just been sort of rejigs of what we've already had, so it would be nice to see maybe a new version of Superman in the black suit. That would be small, but that'd be fun. So it's all very interesting, and I will be live streaming reactions to the panels this weekend, time permitting. I probably will drop my schedule on a community post as well to let you know what I will be reacting to, but there isn't a lot really to react to because the panels aren't really that interesting, quite frankly. There's not a Marvel panel, and we're going to have to wait till DC Fandom for really the big stuff. Before we finish as well, we had an interesting leak about the final scenes of the movie, and the Snyder Cut would actually end with the nightmare scene coming real. We have this interesting leak here that came out, I think it was a week ago, and this would actually show the ending of the movie, and it actually ends part one because the Justice League was supposed to be split into two, so that makes sense if we have the Snyder Cut and Snyderverse carrying on HBO Max. Now, in the image that was leaked last week, we see the Nightmare Batman with Rebels, like you saw in the Nightmare scene, but this time we'll see him with Flash and Cyborg and a few of those Rebels. Now, interestingly, in the supposed leaks of the Snyder Cut, Flash actually went back in time to save the squad from Steppenwolf, giving them a second chance. However, it was all for naught, as your boy Darkseid, who actually is supposed to appear in the Snyder Cut through a boom tube as the head of Steppenwolf is sent through it, well, he actually comes to Earth finally 5 years after the culmination of that battle, and he takes over the planet and has his parademons throughout the Earth. So maybe the Flash could be the key, maybe he could go back in time. It's unclear if we will see evil Superman. Part of me always thought that was just a manifestation of the fears of Bruce Wayne, but if Lois is supposed to die, that makes sense with her being the key. He will then maybe turn a bit bad. He'll break bad there, which I'm not too sure I like. And interestingly, not only the Flash could go back in time, but Darkseid's Omega Beams can actually be used to send people back in time as well. So what if Batman, like Dark Knight's metal, sent himself back in time? He was also sent back as well during Final Crisis, leading to the death of Batman, blah, blah, blah. So what if they go back in time to try and save Lois, so Superman is on their side? But if you enjoyed the video, please do drop a like down below, and please do subscribe with notifications on so you never miss a video. And thank you again to all the love you've shown to my Stargirl video. That will be coming weekly, as I absolutely adore that show, and I may be adding Doom Patrol as well. I'm just a couple of episodes behind on that. I just need to catch up. But that's it for this video. I'll see you soon, and goodbye.